When it does, you need
Trial.
this, and this, and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side,
Trial.
your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.
Trial. Trial.
Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need
Trial.
this, and this, and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance.
Trial.
What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.
Trial. 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 Trial.
Don't you hate it when that happens to you?
Trial.
When it does, you need this, and this, and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got
Trial.
professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.
Trial. 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 Trial.
Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this, and this, and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got
Trial.
professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.
Trial. 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 Trial.
Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this, and this,
Trial.
and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side,
Trial.
your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.
Trial.
Don't you hate it when that happens to you?
Trial.
When it does, you need this, and this, and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance.
Trial.
What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.
Trial.
Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them and let them take care of your problems. Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems. Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems. Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for?
Trial. 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 Trial.
Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.
Trial.
Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.
Trial.
Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance.
Trial. Trial. Trial.
Waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.
Trial.
Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.
Trial. Trial.
Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, don't you hate it?
Trial. Trial.
Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.
Trial. 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 Trial.
Good evening. Welcome to Undaunted, bringing to the news untold stories. I am Oni Okpala. Let's begin. We are back from Washington. The Ambazonia Stakeholder Strategic Conference to Washington, D.C. 2022 ASSC II was historic. Ambazonians were revived and evidently ready to refire. That notwithstanding, as the West continues to play dirty politics over life lost during Russian invasion of Ukraine, Putin steps up his game. Russia puts Biden, Blinken, and other top US officials on a stop list. Now, that stop list stops them from entering the country. Sanctions do not seem to move Putin amidst the global economy has been greatly affected. Fuel prices rising, humanitarian crisis escalating, power-mongering and tussling also taking a deadlier stage. The ball is rolling, the heat is on. Where is this leading to? What could it lead to? Tonight, as we examine the pre- and post-Washington Stakeholders Conference, we will surely dig deeper into some of these stories. But first, let's get to the crime headlines.
Prime headlines. Russia puts Biden, Blinken, and other top US officials on a stop list that bars them from entering the country. The ASSC II just ended in Washington, D.C. with far-reaching resolutions. After ASSC II, Deacon Tasang shut up Chris Anu and proposes a way forward. The 2022 First Extraordinary Session opening remarks by Right Honorable Dr. Sidi Mohammed Tunis. Finally, the resolutions from the just concluded ASSC II have been officially published and Ambazonians are excited. Manchester United has crashed out of the UEFA Champions League. Some delayed games in the English Premiership League will be played today.
Trial. 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 Trial.
Now, Zelensky appeals for help from Canada in emotional speech.
Trial.
Will that speech get him what he wants? Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky asked Canadians on Tuesday to imagine bombs landing in their communities as he urged the Canadian Parliament and government to exert greater economic and military pressure on Russia. Zelensky asked Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and lawmakers for help to enact a no-fly zone over the Ukraine. Also, Biden to attend a NATO-EU summit in Brussels next week. US President Joe Biden is to travel to Brussels for NATO and EU summit next Thursday, officials said, as Western allies align their response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The gatherings of March 24 of the US leader with his European counterpart comes after Washington and Brussels unveiled successful waves of coordinated sanctions against Russia. Russia says agreement on reviving Iran nuclear deal now being polished. This is by the TASS. Russian Foreign Ministry said on Tuesday the remaining points of an agreement aimed at reviving a big power nuclear deal with Iran were being polished and again denied US suggestions that Moscow was blocking an accord. The TASS news agency reported earlier Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said after meeting his Iranian counterpart that Russia had received written assurances from Washington that sanctions against Moscow over Ukraine would not hinder cooperation within the framework of the deal. EU adds Russian billionaire Abramovich to sanctions list. This is by the EU official journal. Now, the European Union on Wednesday blacklisted Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich and more oligarchs in a fresh round of sanctions following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia imposes sanctions against Trudeau, Canadian lawmaker. Russia is imposing sanctions against Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and over 300 lawmakers. The Russian Foreign Ministry said this on Tuesday. Fox News cameraman Per Zazwisky killed in Ukraine. This is by the network. A cameraman for Fox News, Per Zazwisky, has been killed in Ukraine outside Kyiv. The US network said this on Tuesday. Zazwisky was killed and his colleague Benjamin Hall was wounded when their vehicle was struck on Monday by incoming fire in Horanka outside the capital city. Fox News Media CEO Susan Scott reported this. Russian court finds woman for anti-war protest on state TV. A Russian court fined a woman 30,000 rupees, that is $280 on Tuesday, for finding her guilty of flaunting protest legislation where she interrupted a live news bulletin on a state TV and denounced the war in Ukraine. The RIA news agency reported Marina Ovyaslakova, a Channel One employee, had up a sign behind a studio presenter reading the news on Channel One on Monday night and shouted slogans condemning Russia's February 24 invasion of Ukraine. Mayor invites Pope Francis to Kyiv to show compassion. Now, the mayor of Kyiv has invited Pope Francis to the Ukrainian capital to show his compassion. But the Vatican did not say this on Tuesday if the pontiff had agreed to go. In a letter dated March 8 and viewed on Tuesday by AFP, Mayor Vitaly Klitschko wrote that the world religious leaders' presence in person in Kyiv is a key for saving lives and paving the path to peace in our country and our city and even beyond. OPEC flags risks to oil demand outlook from Ukraine war inflation. OPEC said on Tuesday that oil demand in 2022 faced challenges from Russia's invasion of Ukraine and rising inflation as crude prices soar, increasing the likelihood of reductions to its forecast for robust demand this year. Oil prices shot above $139 a barrel this month, hitting peaks not seen since 2008 as Western sanctions tightened on Moscow over its invasion of Ukraine and disrupted oil sales from Russia, helping to fuel inflation that was already rising. China, wary of being impacted by Russian sanctions, says the FM. China does not want to be impacted by Western economic sanctions on Russia. The foreign ministry said this on Tuesday as pressure grows on Beijing to withdraw support from an isolated Moscow. Beijing has refused to condemn its close ally Russia over its invasion of Ukraine, while blaming the United States and NATO's eastward expansion for worsening tension. Russia to spend $9 billion to rebuild supply chain, the PM says. Now, Russia plans to spend 1 trillion rubles, that is $9 billion, on the so-called anti-crisis measures. Prime Minister Macaulay Mishustin said this on Tuesday as the government tries to at least partially offset the impact of fresh Western sanctions. The plan includes more than 100 proposals and is to be updated, Mishustin said, to rebuild production and supply chain. Russia says it will offer its own UN resolution on Ukraine humanitarian situation. Russia will put forth its own draft of a resolution regarding the humanitarian situation in Ukraine. Moscow's ambassador to the United Nations said this on Tuesday while answering a reporter's question. Ambassador Vasily Nebenzia also said Russia will stop its invasion when the goals of its special military operation are achieved in Ukraine, including demilitarization. Russian bombardment of Kyiv kills 4. Russian airstrikes and shelling hit Kyiv on Tuesday, killing at least 4 people. Authorities said as invading forces tightened their grip on the Ukrainian capital and the mayor announced a 35-hour curfew starting at 8 p.m. Russia halts grain export to ex-Soviet Republic. Russia has introduced a temporary ban on exports of grain, of which it is a major supplier, to force former Soviet countries to secure domestic supplies and avoid a spike in prices. Russia is introducing a temporary ban on the exportation of grains to the countries of the European Economic Union. The government's press service said this in a statement late Monday. Ukraine, Russia, talks have restarted, Ukrainian negotiator says. Kyiv and Moscow resumed talks on the war in Ukraine on Tuesday after a pause on Monday. Ukrainian negotiator Makalu Padoyak said, and I quote, consultations on the main negotiation platform renewed. General regulation matters, ceasefire withdrawal of troops from the territory of the country. He wrote these particular words on Tuesday. Britain says latest sanctions hit wealthy Russian worth £100 billion. Britain's latest round of sanctions on Tuesday included elites with a net worth of £100 billion, that is $130.63 billion, and included Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov and Foreign Minister spokesperson Maria Zakharova. The Foreign Office said, and I quote, "We are going further and faster than ever in hitting those closest to Putin, from a major oligarch to his prime minister and the propagandist. We peddle his lies and disinformation," Foreign Minister Liz Truss said this in a statement. UK sanctions Putin's press secretary Dmitry Peskov and Russian Foreign Affairs spokesperson Maria Zakharova. About 2,000 cars have left Ukraine's besieged Mariupol city. Now, this report reads that about 2,000 cars have been able to leave the besieged Ukrainian city of Mariupol, and a further 2,000 are waiting to leave the city council And in an online post on Tuesday, as of 14
Trial.
o'clock, it is also known that 2,000 cars have left Mariupol, it says. 4 people killed in Kyiv by Russian airstrikes, reports the Kyiv Independent.
Trial.
As a result of shelling, a fire broke out in a 16-story residential building in Kyiv Western City District. Several other buildings were also hit, including the
Trial.
entrance to the Lukuvisa metro station. Zelensky says Ukraine needs to
Trial.
recognize that there is not an open door to NATO membership. This report reads that more than 3 million refugees
Trial.
flee Ukraine war. More than 1.4 million of these are children. According to the UN Children's Agency UNICEF, while 157,000 are third country
Trial.
nationals, IOM said Abramovich jet lands in Moscow after a brief stop in Istanbul, reports the Reuters. A jet linked to sanctioned Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich landed in Moscow early on Tuesday after taking off from Istanbul following a brief stop there. Fighter Radar 24 data shows the jet linked to Abramovich, the owner of Britain's Chelsea soccer club, arrived in Istanbul from Israel on Monday. Shortly after he was seen in Tel Aviv Ben Gurion Airport, Abramovich was among 7 Russian billionaires added to a British sanctions last week to try to isolate President Vladimir Putin over Russia's invasion of Ukraine. European Union diplomats have embraced a similar move. The Russian oligarch, who also holds Israeli and Portuguese citizenship, has denied having close ties to Putin. Abducted mayor taken to Luhansk, says Ukraine military. Military authorities in Ukraine have claimed that Ivan Fedorov, the mayor of Melitopol, who was allegedly abducted by Russian forces on March 11th, has been taken to the separative Luhansk region, according to the latest update by the military administration of Zaporozhye region, where Melitopol is located. Saying Fedorov is currently in Luhansk. And this report reads, and I quote, where he is incriminated with terrorism. The Ukrainska Pravda newspaper reported this. The administration said that a protest rally in Bedins on Monday demanding release of Fedorov was obstructed by Russian forces. Now, you see why we question the direction of these power tussle and the gimmicks of the West. The critical question remains, where could this conflict lead to? Excerpts of presentation of Deacon Tasang Wilfred to participants at the ASSC II Washington, D.C. from the 3rd to the 13th of March 2022, a must read. Every line was full of emotion and passion. Much mileage would have covered, but for evil tactics of Mr. Anu's distractions. Mr. Anu must know that the Lord hates a proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord amongst brethren. This is from the Holy Book of Proverbs, chapter 6, 16 to 19. But now that we know to what extent the enemy can be stubborn, we all should be on the alert and be more watchful. Gab Ellison has an overview. Let's hear him.
At the time Mr. Anu came up with Reset 2, Ground Zero was ejecting the enemy from our territory through speeds of lava from mountain to valley. Field Marshal Nopiti was dancing to Jaguar rhythms in Bamising with General Sagun, Grandpa of Bali and Okoro of Santa relaying from the center. FMA and the Red Dragons, Tenkobo and the rest of them were striking down the enemy with precision all over the coastal, equatorial, and midland regions. We saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and yours truly, Yaoundé, was on the verge of capitulation. It was because of this pressure that Felix Mbayu, La Republique du Cameroon's junior foreign affairs minister in charge of the Commonwealth, was hurriedly designated as Yaoundé's focal point to the Swiss-led process. At the time, LRC citizens were beginning to feel the heat and took to the streets asking their government to stop the war and negotiate. Around this period, an LRC pastor performing burial rites was heard bemoaning the fact that those being killed in the senseless war in Ambazonia were the children of the poor and not of ministers. Then Mr. Anu, the evil genius to destroy the steam, sprang up a surprise, diluted our joints and marrows with the oil of fatigue and exhaustion. The interim government, he said, should be dissolved and Ayuktabe's men brought back. Since then, Chris Anu and his friends have channeled their energy to make President Sako fail so as to justify Reset 2 and for the enemy to prevail. Which tiredness and fatigue did he mean? They stopped at nothing, working behind the scenes. John Egiawan and Anu tried desperately to turn ground commanders against the IG and President Sako. John Egiawan went into angry tantrums when Field Marshal of Lebialem turned down the calls made by some upstate activists for him to take over political leadership on the territory. Salute the ground commanders who, without exception, resisted this temptation. The effect, however, has been confusion in the ranks. ASSC II should rekindle the spirits and revive the morale of our men in the trenches. Spilled milk, yet we can and should bounce back with a vengeance. Now that we know to what extent the enemy will go, we all should be on the alert and be more watchful. Gab Ellison for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
The 2022 first extraordinary session opening remarks by Right Honorable Dr. Saidi Mohammed Tunis, who is the Speaker of the Ecowas Parliament, has given some truth about Africa and how she can get better. The question now would be, is this another political talk? What credence should be awarded to this? How can the Ecowas enhance Africa with this resolution? But first, let us examine deeper this statement. The event held at Monrovia, Liberia on the 8th to March day of 2022. In attendance were Dr. George Menawe, who is the President of Republic of Liberia, honorable members of the ECOWAS Parliament, honorable members of the Liberian Legislature, ambassadors, government officials, and others. Her Excellency Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, former President of the Republic of Liberia, was also present. The Speaker of ECOWAS Parliament has said the situation in the republics of Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso, exacerbated by the failed coup in the Republic of Guinea-Bissau, are threatening issues that requires our urgent attention. He said constitutional abuse and deficits in good government principles, the lack of transparency in the electioneering process, corruption, as well as unrest resulted from unplanned change in constitutions are factors to which coup d'etats have been hinged. As a result, our democratic processes appear weakened, thereby impacting negatively on the image of ECOWAS. He also stated, in addition to the above, that the policy of isolation as a result of imposed sanctions seriously undermines regional integration. Its impacts appears to have consequences mostly characterized by debates by ordinary citizens in some member states on the desirability or otherwise of their continued ECOWAS membership. The prevailing political situation in the republics of Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso, the three member states where democracy has been disrupted, and hence the decision by the authority of heads of state and government to suspend them. Speaking on the happenings of Mali, he expressed the hope that the Malian authorities will take seriously the new position by the ECOWAS authority of heads of states and governments and take very decisive and timely steps aimed at having them reserved. He's aware that as strategic as these sanctions are, their negative consequences on the civilian population cannot be avoided. The attempted coup in Guinea-Bissau of 2nd February 2022 was condemned, and the Speaker also expressed solidarity with the government and people of Guinea-Bissau. He said he sincerely hopes that the deployment of a force will help stabilize the country and guide against the reoccurrence of such anti-democratic acts. The Speaker also heightened the rising insecurity in the Sahel region. As you all know, the region and situation in most precarious in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Nigeria, and the Lake Chad Basin. Deteriorating security and violence are aggravating an already difficult humanitarian situation especially amid the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change. Last year, deadly attacks in the western Tahoe region of Niger, Boko Haram attacks and worsening violence being perpetrated by criminal gangs in northwestern Nigeria have altogether claimed the lives of at least 2,000 innocent civilians in the region. Interestingly, the speaker received a document referenced genocide alert in Ambazonia, southern Cameroon, from a group under the banner United Support for Peace, which made him deeply concerned about conflicts and human rights situations in Cameroon's minority Anglophone region. He said violence has displaced tens of thousands of people in the past year, adding to the hundreds of thousands who have fled their homes since the start of the violence in 2016. An African proverb says, and I quote, "It is only a foolish person who sleeps when his neighbor's roof is on fire." We hope that the rights of all would be respected and that the situation would be resolved amicably while the shame and evil was contained in the region. The efforts of those that are moving regional democracy in the right direction was commended. The good people of Gambia was commended for the peaceful manner in which their December polls were conducted. Gambia's election was preceded by similar elections in Cape Verde, with both countries demonstrating in very clear terms that democracy can win, and democracy has won. With this, we believe that Africa will be great. The ASSC II had Ambazonians represented by delegates from the 13 counties and 61 local government areas of the former British Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, and other stakeholders meeting in Washington, D.C., USA, and virtually via the Zoom platform. This happened from the 3rd to the 13th of March 2022. Constituted in this General Assembly, referred to as the Constituents General Assembly of the 2022 Ambazonia Stakeholder Strategic Conference, Washington, D.C., United States of America. The stakeholders anonymously reiterated and maintained unflinching support of the interim government led by His Excellency Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, as the legitimate representative leadership structure of the people of Ambazonia as empowered in ASSC Berlin 2019. They also condemned the detestable actions by some gruntled Ambazonians who recently resorted to destabilizing our interim structures by hijacking the People's Assembly, the Restoration Council, and using it as a launch pad to achieve their ulterior motives. They also rebuked the dishonorable actions by leadership of the Restoration Council under Mr. Elvis Kometa and cohorts, including blatantly breaching constitutionality in a desperate attempt to destabilize the executive branch of government, slowing the gains achieved thus far in our liberation quest. Appeal to all Ambazonians, especially those who have manipulated to make wrong decisions or hold false opinions on the level of commitment of our interim government, to rejoin the ranks of true patriots as we continue our liberation quest as a collective determined people. Also is a review of Amba Peace Plan APP. It was decided that there will be one term of office for officials of local government areas and county. Local government chairpersons shall have a term of office of 2 years renewable. County coordinators shall have a term of office of 2 years renewable as well. Zonal partition of the territory of Ambazonia, also the entire territory of Ambazonia shall be partitioned into 3 geographical territories. Number 1 is the Atlantic Zone, and it shall be comprising of Feko, Kupe, Monagube, Meme, and Indian counties. The Midland Zone shall comprise of Lebelem, Mayu, Mezam, and Momo counties. The Savannah region shall comprise of Moyo, Boyi, Donga Mutang, Mencham, and Ngokentuje counties. Also decided upon is that the name of the quasi-legislative structure of the IG of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, referred to as the Restoration Council, will henceforth be called the Interim House of Representatives, the IHR. The leader of the IHR
Trial.
shall be referred to as Speaker of the House. Also, the restoration Monday fee stipulated in Section 6, subsection B in the APP guideline
Trial.
has been abolished. Section 6, subsection F, stipulating $1 a day till restoration has been replaced by a
Trial.
monthly local government levy of at least $20 per member or at least $24 per year. Concerning citizenship levy CID under section 10
Trial.
subsection B of the APP guidelines shall be replaced as follows. A. The basic
Trial.
plan from $10 monthly from the $120 yearly. B. Pillar
Trial.
plan from $25 monthly or from $300 yearly. Premium plan from $50 monthly or from $600 yearly. Super plan
Trial.
from $100 monthly or from $1,002 yearly. Elite plan
Trial.
from $150 monthly or from $1,800 yearly. For appointment of cabinet officials, A.
Trial.
Cabinet appointments that rise to cabinet level shall be submitted
Trial.
to the IHR for vetting. Upon submission of the cabinet appointment by the President
Trial.
of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, the IHR should have 30 calendar days to do its investigation of the appointee and communicate the fact to the
Trial.
President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Should the IHR fail to do its work within 30 days of submission of the
Trial.
cabinet appointee, the cabinet appointee shall automatically assume office with full right for impeachment of the president. It was also decided that there
Trial.
shall be no regular presidential election during this liberation phase. However, in
Trial.
cases of acts by the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia that are considered high crime, treason, and
Trial.
misdemeanors, making him or her unfit for office, the IHR can vote to impeach or indict the president by a 75% majority vote
Trial.
in full house. A vote to impeach the president shall not mean removal of the president from office, but
Trial.
an indictment that will require trial. A successful impeachment vote shall lead to the president being tried by the 13 counties coordinators following due process, stating established facts and proving
Trial.
intent with evidence presented by the IHR and a hearing in the presence of the State Attorney of the Federation. The trial will be overseen by the Judicial Council and Ethics Commission,
Trial.
who shall jointly proclaim the verdict. Following this trial, a vote of 10 out of 13 county coordinators shall be sufficient to remove the president
Trial.
from office, and the vice president will become the acting president. The selection of a new president, according to the procedure prescribed in the interim constitution, must be done within
Trial.
3 months. The president further emphasized that home should be used rather than ground zero.
Trial.
The ASSC II was historic. Ambazonians were revived and evidently ready to refire. But the question of the historic and the legality of the interim government is
Trial.
worthwhile. The newsroom on this special report examines the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, a continuation of Dr. E.M.L. Endeli's government. Gab Ellison has a close observation.
Trial.
As those not familiar with our history may erroneously believe, the current interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, led by Dr. Samuel Ekome Sako, was rather restored and not created. On October 1st,
Trial.
2017, by the then chairman of the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia Governing Council, Sisiku Julius Ayuktabe, the Southern Cameroons, or former UN Trust territory of the Southern Cameroons under British administration,
Wow.
became a self-governing territory as early as 1953. When our founding
Wow.
father, Dr. Emmanuel Lifaka Mbele Ndele, in a courageous and historic move, declared benevolent neutrality in the Eastern Regional House of Assembly in Enugu, and in a unanimous decision moved our
Wow.
representatives to Boya to create the first ever government for the territory. After recognition of this unanimous decision by our leaders, Dr. E.M. Ndele went on to serve as the first Prime Minister and head of government of the Southern Cameroons from 1954 to 1959, when he was defeated by Dr. John Ungo Fancher in a free and fair election. It's very important to trace these origins so as to prove that the government that was declared by Sisiku Julius Ayuktabe on October 1st, 2017, and presently led by Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako was actually a restoration and a continuation of Dr. E.M. Ndele's government. The Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia, therefore, was one of the first self-governing territories in Africa, with a proud and rich political history dating back to the early 50s, despite the fact that the government of the state of West Cameroon, Southern Cameroonians, was illegally suppressed by the colonial and annexationist regime of French Cameroon in 1972 at the beckoning of their French masters in Paris. Through a free and fair election, and probably the first in Africa, Dr. John Ungo Fancher succeeded Ndele and was Prime Minister and head of government of the Southern Cameroons from 1959 to 1965, when he was replaced by Bobby Augustin Ngomjua, who served as Prime Minister from 13th May 1965 to 11 January 1968. He was succeeded in this capacity by Honorable Solomon Tandeng Muna, who served as Prime Minister and head of government from 1968 to 1972, when the government was finally dissolved by President Amadou Ahidjo of French Cameroon through an illegal referendum in 1972, in violation of Article 47 of the Federal Constitution that guaranteed the sanctity of the state and government of the Southern Cameroons. The restoration of our government on October 2017 was therefore a logical step following a series of political events going back to the All-Anglophone Conference AAC I held in Boya in 1993. It must be noted that the illegal and suppression of the government of the Southern Cameroons in 1972 at the inspiration of France after the discovery of oil and gas in the Indian and Bakassi areas of our nation did not signal the end of Southern Cameroons. Ambazonian nationalism, or the abandonment of our inalienable right to self-determination and self-government that sparked the creation of our first government in Boya in 1954. And led to the granting of independence to the territory on October 1st, 1961, following the passing of Resolution 1608, Article 14 by the United Nations General Assembly on April 21st, 1961. Prior to independence, a liberal constitution, the Southern Cameroons Order in Council, had been adopted in 1960 by the people's representatives in Boya, solidifying our political status as a nation-state in the making, with a functional executive branch, legislature, judiciary, police force, and other trappings of governance. It's based on this history and experience that our people came out in their millions across the national territory on September 22nd and October 1st, 2017 to reassert and declare the restoration of the government of the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia, as a direct continuation of Dr. E.M.L. Ndele's administration and presently headed by Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako. It must also be noted that a series of political events preceded this historic declaration going back to as early as 1985 with the creation of the Cameroon Anglophone movement and the agitation of the Republic of Ambazonia, led by Fongoji Dinka. It is said that the people who had once known self-rule can be permanently subjugated and recolonized, because they will always remember a time when they were a free people. So the glorious quest to restore our nation and our governing structures has been long-standing, being a natural right for every freedom-loving people. That's why in 1993, Southern Cameroon's Ambazonian nationalists gathered in a historic conference in our nation's capital, Boya, from April 2nd to 3rd, in what was dubbed the All-Anglophone Conference I, AAC I, to revive our quest to self-determination for our people and the ultimate restoration of our statehood. Amongst the resolutions adopted was the creation of the Anglophone Council. The AAC I also resolved and stated to the government of Cameroons the cardinal demand for the restoration of the federated state of the Southern Cameroons as the minimum condition for maintaining the federated union with French Cameroon, albeit which the Anglophone Council shall, thereupon proclaim the revival of the independence and sovereignty of the Anglophone territory of the Southern Cameroons and take all measures necessary to secure, defend, and preserve the independence, sovereignty, and integrity of the said territory. The march towards the restoration of our country and its governing structures was quickened at the All Anglophone Conference II ASSC II, held in Bamenda in May 1994, where it was all resolved that following the proclamation of the revival of the independence and sovereignty of Southern Cameroons, the Anglophone Council shall, without having to convene another session of the All Anglophone Conference, transform itself into the Southern Cameroons Constituent Assembly for the purpose of drafting, debating, and adopting a constitution for the independent and sovereign state of Southern Cameroons. This was what subsequently led to the creation of the Southern Cameroons National Council, SCNC, one of the founding member organizations of the Southern Cameroons Ambazonia Consortium United Front in Nigeria in mid-2017 that led to Southern Cameroons Governing Council headed by Sisiku Julius Ayuktabe that same year. Following massive demonstrations by the peoples of the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia on September 22nd and October 1st, 2017, the said governing council led by Sisiku Julius Ayuktabe will go on to declare the restoration of the independence of the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia on October 1st, 2017. Following his abduction along with members of his government on January 5th, 2018, the Ambazonian people went on to elect Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako as the acting president of the interim government of Ambazonia, and subsequently as the president of the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. It must therefore be understood that the current interim government is but a continuation of the first government created by Dr. EML Ndele in 1954 after the Southern Cameroons obtained self-government that same year and was seated in our national capital in Boya with full political legitimacy. Gab Ellison on this historical report for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
It should be clear that the only legitimate forces in Ambazonia are the Ambazonian Restoration Forces. Now, La Republic de Cameroon can try as much as they can to wipe out Ambazonians, but they will not succeed. What worries me most is what's the gain in killing the people you say you want. Plot to eliminate FM Isobu's uncovered ARF Homeland Intelligence has uncovered a plot masterminded by ADF of Ayaba Cho gang leader Chapo Daniel. In a video blackmails FM Isobu as a menace to the citizens of Bua County, paints unfounded stories of kidnappings, killings, and demanding ransom. Following this abortive plot, now made public, the Homeland Front of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, in its finding, has observed that a certain Capo Daniel of the ADF group is the brain behind this unpatriotic plan because FM Isobu refused to join the Unity Warriors and snubs their dirty jobs. FM Isobu will not permit the sales of Brazil's products in Ambazonia as instructed by the interim government, and FM Isobu is uncompromising in its alliance to the flag of the IG with Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako and will not pay allegiance to La Republique proxy militant groups. The investigation further shockingly revealed that the so-called Unity Warriors is a fabrication of La Republique using the ADF militia of Mr. Ayabacho Lucas to wipe out all Ambazonia Restoration Forces in order to end the struggle. The home front of the Restoration Trust of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia wishes to succinctly make this clear to all Ambazonians at home and abroad and to the international community that the only legitimate forces in Ambazonia are the Ambazonia Restoration Forces, ARF. All other groups are militias and proxy forces fabricated by the invaders, La République du Cameroon and France. 2. Condemn the stronger terms the attacks on genuine fighters like FM Isobu and other ARFs by these militias and proxy forces of La République. 3. Condemn kidnappings carried out by these militias on our unmarred civilians. Recognize and reaffirm our acknowledgement of the interim government, which is led by Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako. This report is thanks to the IG Watchmen.
Latest world sports highlights. Champions League. Manchester United crashed out of the UEFA Champions League round of 16 after being defeated at home by Spanish side Atletico Madrid 1-0. The goal was scored by Atletico fullback Renard Lodi during the last minutes of the first half. The goal came through controversial circumstances after Manchester United players claimed foul on Anthony Elanga ahead of the build-up to that goal. Manchester United came back in the second half, determined to find an equalizer, but all attempts to that proved unfruitful due to Atletico Madrid low block. Atletico Madrid moved to the quarterfinals of the competition after a 2-1 aggregate win. In another Champions League game played yesterday, it was Benfica that defeated Dutch side Ajax of Amsterdam 1-0 to move to the quarterfinals on a 3-2 aggregate win. Coming into the 16 finals, Ajax were one of the only teams still in the competition to have not lost a game. For games coming up today, Chelsea carry a 2-0 first leg win to France as they battle things out with French champions Lille. Lille will need at least a 2-0 win to take the game to extra time. In Italy, Juventus and Villarreal will have everything to play for, with both sides separating on a 1-0 draw in the first leg. Juventus will be hoping to make their home support count when they welcome Villarreal in Turin. Premier League. Some delayed games of the English Premiership League will be played today. Antonio Conte of his Tottenham side will want to keep their Champions League hope alive when they travel to take on Brighton at the American Express. It is worth mentioning that Brighton has gone 5 games without a win and will be hoping to make things right this time around at their own backyard. In another delayed game, there is everything to play for when Arsenal entertain Liverpool at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal will want to extend the gap to their top challengers, while Liverpool will be hoping to close the gap to just 1 point to league leaders Manchester City. European Union imposes sanctions on Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich. The European Union imposed sanctions on Chelsea Football Club owner Roman Abramovich as part of a new package of measures targeting Russia and President Vladimir Putin's close allies. The EU included the Russian oligarch in its updated list of individuals facing assets freeze and travel bans over their role in the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The 55-year-old Abramovich had already been punished in Britain by Prime Minister Boris Johnson's government last week. The aluminum magnate was among 7 wealthy Russians who had their assets frozen under British sanctions in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The EU said Abramovich has had privileged access to the Russian president and has maintained very good relations with him. This connection with Russian leader helped him to maintain his considerable wealth. AFCON preliminary. Marius Mondilmaji leads Chad provisional squad for AFCON 2023 preliminary. The South of Chad begin preparations in Cameroon, which is also the venue of their first leg preliminary round fixture of Total Energies African Cup of Nations 2023 against Gambia. The squad will seek to challenge the 2021 tournament's quarterfinalists, the Scorpions of Gambia. The Sao left Jamena on Sunday to Cameroon, where they will intensify preparations at the Mondi Sports Complex ahead of their first leg AFCON 2023 preliminaries scheduled on March 23 in Yaoundé before heading to Agadir, Morocco for the return game 6 days later. The winner of the doubleheader will advance to the group stages of the AFCON 2023 qualifiers scheduled to start in June, with 23 teams to join host Ivory Coast in the 24 Nations tournament built for June to July 2023. Tennis. Daniel Medvedev faces Wimbledon ban unless he provides two Russian assurances. World number one Daniil Medvedev could be banned from competing in Wimbledon this summer over Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It is understood that the sports minister is in discussions with the All England club to ban Russian players from the prestigious Grand Slam tournament unless they provide assurances over their alignment with their country and Vladimir Putin's beliefs. Tennis is one of the few sports still allowing Russian and Belarusian players to compete, but they must do so as neutrals, with no mention of their respective countries or flags. Their decision was announced by the ATP, WTA, ITF, and 4 Grand Slams on March 1st, with both countries' national teams also banned from the Davis Cup and Billie Jean King Cup, where Russia are defending champions. Women's Cricket World Cup. England open account in tournament with 4-wicket victory. England finally get their World Cup campaign off the mark with a 4-wicket win, giving their net run rate a massive boost with a little under 19 overs to spare. India though did well to snare 6 wickets, 3 of which went into Mega Singh's kitty and certainly could have defended a total in excess of 200 if only the batters had shown a little more application. India meanwhile face an even tougher test later in the weekend as they take on 6-time champions Australia, who are among the 2 sides yet to lose a game in the tournament. Mithali Raj and co. will have to quickly regroup and iron out their battling flaws as they plot what will consider an upset win by some later this week. Gab Ellison on this sports coverage for Undaunted, ABC Amba.
And with that sports report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories. Russia has put Biden, Blinken, and other top U.S. officials on a stop list that bars them from entering the country. The ASSC II just ended in Washington, D.C. with far-reaching resolutions. After ASSC II, Deacon Tansang shuts up Chris Anu and has proposed a way forward. Some experts from the 2022 First Extraordinary Session opening remarks by Right Honorable Dr. Sadi Mohammed Tunis. And finally, the resolutions from the just concluded ASSC II have been published. Ambazonians are excited. And in sports, we told you that Manchester United has crashed out of the UEFA Champions League. Some delayed games in the English Premier League will also be played today. And that was it for tonight, Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Onyi Okpala. We leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Thanks for watching.
These are people who are standing with Ambazonia, their jerseys, their ball, and whatsoever stands for Ambazonia is bearing the Ambazonian colors. But Ambazonian people, we want